from Abuja.
Hello, thank you for being a part of our show. We appreciate you. I'm Magnus Kpakol, and this is Magnus Kpakol GVA. As always, it's all about how we can raise the level of living. That's what it's all about. In view today, is national ideology needed in Nigeria? After all, what is it, and how can it help Nigeria to develop faster and stay united? Reverend Professor Yusufu Obaje, a scholar, commentator, and a former State House chaplain, will help us discuss this. But before that, in our hidden economics, an unrighteous environment hurting progress? Now, up next in our quick view, we rank the leading countries in rail transportation. That's coming right up. Appropriate and reliable transportation investments lower the cost of moving people and goods, and thereby increases economic productivity, which roughly can be measured as the output of goods and services per unit of an input, which can be labor or even investment. Rising productivity leads to a higher standard of living. With rising environmental and monetary costs of automobile transportation, many municipalities and even nations have turned to rail transportation to accommodate current and future growth. In this connection, which of the following countries is not among the top 4 in the world in kilometers of railways? The United States of America, India, Russia, and Japan. Which of the following countries is not among the top 4 in kilometers of railways in Africa? South Africa, Sudan, Egypt, and Nigeria. Stay with us for our answers coming up shortly. Still in view, does Nigeria need a national ideology? But up next in our hidden economics, the pollution of an unrighteous environment. The first episode of Magnus Kpakol GVA was on the unrighteous economy. We concluded that the reason many African countries had failed to be globally competitive is because they entered and have stayed in an unrighteous economy. Now, what is an unrighteous economy? For the sake of time, a short definition is a place or economic system where the political economy is run by witchcraft. Now, as I've also defined it, in governance, political witchcraft is exercising power without authority. If the rule of law has failed, then crime will consequently go unpunished, and witchcraft will prevail, as people will just go about doing whatever they want without consequence or even the fear of punishment. Recently, some people asked me why so many people have been pouring into seminars and conferences, some even organized by religious bodies, and yet social degradation appears to be on the rise. The answer? An unrighteous environment. Assume that you attend all these seminars and conferences, where you get all you need to know on morality, etiquette, good neighborliness, customer service, productivity, efficiency, leadership, responsibility, accountability, and success. However, you get back into society and you find that there is no reward of any kind for the good virtues you learned, and in fact no punishment or sanctions at all for bad behavior. First, say you get into a traffic red light and you are the only one stopping. You get to your public office and everyone else is getting rich, really rich, feeding off the fat of their office. You find that people can just go against traffic on a one-way road. You sometimes find that the teacher often practices the very thing he preaches against. All these that you have found are examples of a polluted environment. It takes extreme personal courage and accountability to succeed in an unrighteous environment. The significant volatility, uncertainty, unpredictability that we see, or even economic hardship that is experienced in many poor countries, is the result of having entered into an unrighteous economy, whereby whatever method there is significant and sustained repression of good citizenship and economic participation. Where is the solution? As Ross Perot, the billionaire former US presidential candidate, once said, "If you see a snake, kill it." I believe President Buhari is trying to do just that in Nigeria in his fight against corruption. But we must go further. After all, as I've always said, corruption is always and everywhere related to the expected frequency of opportunity. If people feel that opportunities for participation are uncertain and unmerited, then they will be motivated to take a perverse advantage of whatever comes their way, because they believe it may never come again. If we permit the environment to be polluted by not administering adequate rewards and sanctions, and if in addition the national output level is low from weak productivity, and rewards rarely come for good behavior, then no amount of seminars and conferences will save us. Our hidden economics for you. Before we start our discussion, here are our quick view answers. The country not among the top 4 in the world in kilometers of railways is Japan. Nigeria is the country listed here not among the top 4 in kilometers of railways in Africa. For comments, adverts, and sponsorship, please see our information displayed on the screen. Many countries have attempted to link national ideology to state structure, survival, and economic progress. Contemporarily, many countries like Indonesia and Malaysia have designed and developed their national ideologies to help define who they are and what their national aspirations are. In Nigeria, attempts have been made through national conferences and individual statements to determine a way forward for national progress. So, do we need a national ideology? To discuss this, we have someone who has written and spoken widely on this subject. We have Reverend Professor Yusufu Ame Obaje, a theology scholar and social commentator who was the pioneer State House chaplain of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. He is also a former president of the Nigerian Baptist Convention. In 2007, he was a candidate for governor of Kogi State. Professor Obaje has written many books and believes Nigeria needs a national ideology. Please join us in our discussion with Reverend Professor Obaje. Yes, Professor, thank you very much for coming to our studios.
I appreciate your invitation, and I'm grateful to God to be here.
Thank you. We're happy that you're here. Now, I have listened to you quite a bit. I've heard you talk about many different things. But now you've got this thing that you've been talking about, this thing about national ideology.
Yes.
And the last time I shared that with you, I found it to be very intriguing.
Yes.
And I wanted you to come to talk to us and to talk to Nigerians, to talk to our audience about what it really is. What is national ideology? Does anyone care? I mean, how are we going to do this? How are we going to teach people in the villages, in the hamlets, in the nooks and crannies of Nigeria? How would they understand the English that is associated with it?
Well, let me say that I appreciate the question, because to me, no individual can act or behave in any manner without an idea. The same thing applies to a nation. No policy that can drive a nation to its greatness can have an actualization, a fulfillment, without what we call a national idea, which is a national ideology. That which inspires, drives, motivates, that which guides and leads the individual member of that family called nation or country to give his or her best to make that particular country or nation great or fulfill her dream. Without that kind of idea, there will be no national dream. And if there is no national dream, what are the people going to say, oh, this is what I'm looking forward to be? This is what I'm dreaming
Where
for
does
Nigeria.
that idea come from? From God?
Well, as a student of theology, as a pastor, definitely, because I said, agree with others, all great ideas are inspired by God because government is his own. All creatures are his. All humans are his.
That's a good way to put it. Yes.
So since it comes from him, he may instill that idea to an individual. Like all the things that have been invented, maybe the telephone,
Absolutely.
the rail system, comes from an idea that God has given to an individual. And then the whole world grows into it. To me, it is so key that this country is suffering today largely because there's no national ideology. There's not a national idea that drives us to behave and act in a particular manner. Let me give you a quick example. In 1946, when the three regions emerged, the northern region, the eastern region, and of course the western region, all the three regions came up with their own regional ideology. The north in particular said, okay, if you have political power, you can guide and lead Nigeria to be great, and you can make the north great. The east say, oh, well, in our own case, if you have material wealth, you can make Nigeria great, and the east can take the leadership of the country. The west say, no, if you have education. In other words, east of these regions came north political power, ideology, east material wealth, west education. What was missing was the fact that there was no national ideology where the individual regional ideologies will hang their peg. There was no national ideological peg where they could hang. The other day I was speaking somewhere on the challenges of our own current government. I said, look, the party did not come up with an ideology that would drive the dream of the Nigerian people.
But
the whole goal,
would that not be a political party ideology? That would not be a national ideology.
Yeah, of course there is. I mean, when we even talk about ideology, we talk about individual ideology, tribal ideology, party ideology, community ideology.
But I want you to continue with your thought, though. So the party did not come.
Yes. Okay. And then on a national level, we build it out. And then my problem, and then talking about that, what we are facing is that here is a man whose revolutionary background in trying to make sure he achieved results endured Nigeria and say, hey, this is the man that we want. You know, he came through an umbrella of a party. But this party's own whatever that vague ideology is get the PDP out of the way. But if you get PDP out, what are you going to do? Change. Yes. And that change was not defined. You know, unfortunately, it is easy to say change, but what type of change are we looking for? Is it a change that is God-centered? Is it a change that is people-focused? Is it a change that is ideologically rooted? Is it a change that is service-oriented? Is it a change that is administratively inclusive?
Very good point.
Is it a change that is accountably exemplified? Is it a change that is objectively critical? Is it a change that is existentially relevant? You know, these things were not defined.
Absolutely.
And so in the midst of it, you are sitting on there as the president, and all of a sudden, you are faced with a multitude of challenges.
Yes. Professor, do we need a national conference to decide what this ideology should be? Or should it come from the National Assembly?
I want to believe that the National Assembly can do this job. We need it so urgently because it is out of that our national dream will come from. What is the dream that Nigerians have? You know, it's not a matter of me as an individual. Look, we talk of the American dream. We talk of the Japanese dream. We talk of other nations' dream. We talk of these dreams that make every one of them, this is what I'm looking forward to. You know, Nigeria can come up, you know. Our dream is to make sure that every Nigerian has a fulfilled life.
Are you saying, sir, that that's what our dream should be? Or who said that that's our dream?
This is my own suggestion,
Okay,
that to say, look, I must give my best in such a way that every Nigerian should have a fulfilled life, not just perish halfway of your life, or at the end of your life, you look back, you are not a fulfilled person. You know, it is that. And when you adapt that kind of dream, yes, to fulfill the purpose for which God has given to you, then you are now beginning to say, hey, in everything that you do, give your best. Yes, as a laborer, as a cook, as a teacher, as a politician, and whatever. Nothing but your best to make Nigeria great. And it is in that you find even the fulfillment of your own individual dream. But what we have is that in the absence of a national ideology, an idea that will inspire us to give the best we can give to our own country. And I think, let me take a little step back to say that, look, I said in my book, I said, look, for a woman that is pregnant, if we define our national dream to exist is to be a Nigerian, rendering selfless service to make Nigeria the greatest of all nations, and to realize true greatness for all Nigerians in all areas of life, in the spirit of one family, one world, one common destiny, to the glory of the one and only God who created us. Every pregnant woman in Nigeria should read it 6 times to an unborn baby. And when a child is born, double it to 12 times. Every day, read it. When they get to the nursery school, let them read it. By primary school, they should memorize it. By secondary school, we should teach it as a subject, on to the university. Then we are driven by an idea that unites us, that binds us, that compels us to be great. You can't, you know.
But isn't that what we have in the national anthem? Arise, all compatriots. Arise, all compatriots.
A song.
And we have it in the pledge.
Singing a song is like teaching a bird, like parrot, you know, repeat it after me, without the contents of analysis. There's no doubt that even those who sat down and say, look, let's put this in down as a national anthem, they have in mind that this will inspire Nigerians to live. But it's too overloaded with words. A national ideology should be a captivating phrase. To exist is to be a Nigerian. So your existence has no fulfillment.
But what would that mean? If I just say to myself, to exist is to be a Nigerian.
That's why the extension is, what it means is that if I do anything that is not the best of my ability, of my dream, of my potential, I'm not a Nigerian.
But if I say, arise, all compatriots, the nation's call, obey. That means anytime my nation calls, I obey. Is that not good?
Well, it's something that can be used. But as I said, when you take all the stanzas together, this person will be asking, what is he talking about? Arise to do what? You know, which call are we going to obey? And in your national ideology, it's a summary statement, so strong to the point that you not only memorize it, you live by it. And it has to be taught.
Okay.
Taught in the sense that every word that is used is explained to the people.
Okay.
And they grow and live by it and live in it. And out of it, you come out a philosophy of life for the people. That's what drove me to this, even the philosophy of service, to serve. If we have spiritual renaissance and intellectual renaissance, we can all wake up and Nigeria can easily become the greatest nation on earth with all the human and natural resources that the Almighty God has offered us.
Is it an ideology that will hold Nigeria together and make it more prosperous? Now, ideology is, broadly speaking, a collection of beliefs held by an individual, group, or society. Okay, brace yourselves, because to some Nigerians, I'm about to speak too much grammar. All right, it is a little bit of it, so it's not too much. So here it is. An ideology is a comprehensive normative vision that is followed by a people, a community, a society, or even a nation. See, it wasn't that bad. It can make ardent followers of the vision become very tendentious. Well, okay, by that I mean strongly favoring a particular point of view in a very pointed way. The modern meaning of the word ideology is traceable to Napoleon Bonaparte, who as a politician used it in an abusive way against people he called ideologues to express the pettiness of his liberal Republican political opponents. Karl Marx, the great philosopher, argues that a society's dominant ideology is integral to its structural sustainability. So a national ideology can define or reflect the structure of the nation and its stability. Why would Nigeria want a national ideology? As it turns out, the main purpose behind an ideology in general is to offer change in society and adherence to a set of ideals. Even so, should we suffer the nation through the ordeal of coining an ideology when we have the words of our national anthem, "Arise, O compatriots," already? To me, regardless of the nature of the ideology, to make any mark, it would have to be universally believed and shared at literally every public forum. And to take root, its words would have to be taught in our kindergartens, primary, secondary, and tertiary institutions. In the final analysis, it would have to cause the Nigerian to bring out a can-do spirit that is courageous, honest, fair, and committed to the pursuit of personal excellence that makes him or her the best he or she can be, as it brings greatness to the nation and glory to God Almighty. I'm Magnus Kpakol, and that's my view.
Magnus,